What's up guys, welcome back to another video. So today I'm going to stick with training and talk about progressive overload. So I'm going to talk about what progressive overload means, how I view it, and how you can start implementing techniques in order to improve your workouts in the gym. So if you don't know what progressive overload means, it's basically taking a single movement, a particular exercise, and trying to progress with it. Now, being able to measure progressive overload is pretty simple. It's basically being able to lift the same weight that you would do normally, but now with higher reps, or to be able to increase the weight that you are using and be able to progress with that movement through heavier weight. Now, in my opinion, that idea is not flawed, but what is people's mindset and expectation that it should be easy to be able to do this. People expect themselves to be able to lift heavier weights, or a certain weight should become lighter over several weeks, and you should just be able to simply progress in a linear fashion. But if you're an experienced trainer, or you've been going to the gym for a long time and you've been training, you would have experienced something like a plateau or decline in strength, and you can't seem to understand what it is. And it's because there's a lot of variables which people just don't factor in, and that's what I want to get into with this video. So like I said, there's no doubt you have to get stronger. You can't just lift 1 kg forever, increase the reps on it, and expect to grow, expect to progress. You have to get stronger. The weights that you use have to increase, and the weights that used to be heavy for you, you should be able to squeeze out more and more reps as time progresses. So here are some factors for you guys to see and really open your eyes to how you're really leaving so much gains on the table besides just the weight that you're being able to move. The first factor I want you guys to consider is technique. And you're probably thinking, oh no, here's a guy again talking about technique and this and that. But the truth is that a lot of progression is probably left behind with poor technique. A lot of these injuries and niggles that happen are due to poor technique. Now, I'm not saying that you can entirely eliminate injuries from your training, because it's just unrealistic to think that, because when it comes to a point where you're really pushing yourself, you can lose a bit of technique. But what's more important with technique is just your ability to efficiently move a load through a range of motion. Small things like your setup, how stable you are, and things like this just give you more efficiency in a movement. They allow you to produce force and move heavier weight more effortlessly. With poor technique, there's a lot more going on in your body that compromises your lifts. There's much more energy going towards places that you really don't want to be focusing on, and this hampers your ability to produce the most force. So if your goal is to build muscle, you're not really focused on strength. Of course, you're going to get stronger as training progresses, but if your goal is to build more and more muscle, the idea behind every movement, behind your training plan, is to recruit the most muscle fibers. Now, if your training is poor, then even when you do get to fatigue and you do push yourself hard in the gym, you're probably leaving a lot behind by not being able to contract as many muscle fibers as you could if you had better technique. So technique is just something small that you can use to kind of take a step back from your usual training plan. Keep the movements the same, but maybe decrease the weight and just see how you feel under lighter load than how you do when you start increasing weight. And if you feel like the movement's off, you're not as stable as you are under lighter load, the feeling, the sensation, the stimulus is not the same, then maybe this is something that you can focus on for a little while. It gives you a break from the heavy lifting, and it instead allows you to focus on contracting the muscles better and more efficiently. So when it comes to you using heavier weight, you're actually able to contract much more muscle fibers and progress. So the second thing I want you guys to consider is tempo, and I'll probably do a different video for this sometime in the future, but to put it briefly, tempo is your time under tension. So simply put, if you were to take a shoulder press, for example, and this is the movement, up and down, what you do is you change the tempo of that movement. You might increase the eccentric portion of the rep, which is basically coming down. You might even change the pause at its length. So maybe keep the weight here for about 2 seconds before you contract it again. And the subtle changes like this that just keep providing your muscles with different challenges, providing different stimulus, which help you progress long term with getting stronger and being able to lift heavier weight. One last thing to consider when it comes to training and progressive overload is your training plan itself. You might feel that some days you're able to shoulder press much more strongly than a different day, and you might not understand why. But it's always interesting to know what your training was on the previous day or even on the same day, whether shoulder press was your first movement of that session and whether this time you done it second or third, because you can have a lot of fatigue which will hamper a movement, especially if you're doing it second or third in your training plan, or depending on what you've done the previous day and how your recovery was from that session, you could feel a bit more tired, and that can affect your strength levels for the next day. So it's always interesting to keep a note on your workout plan and understand why you felt stronger on some days and why you didn't feel as strong on another day. And these are just some of many variables that can play a part in you not being able to progress in certain movements, in workouts. And these are just some things that are very important but basic enough for you to be able to implement and see and measure for yourself. Simple things like even maybe just taking a break from the movement itself might be enough for you to be able to progress in it within 2 or 3 weeks time. So what you're doing is still training that particular muscle group, but just not through that one exercise. Instead, you can move over to another exercise and get a different stimulus, get your muscles with a different challenge, and it can potentially lead to a greater benefit on that particular movement which you were plateauing on. So that's it, guys. Just remember that strength is not linear, nor is muscle growth. They're both very difficult things and they require different attention in order to progress. They're all just different challenges. It's not meant to be easy, and even if it was meant to be easy, it's not easy. Just be patient with the progress, guys. Don't do anything silly or create an environment in which you invite more injuries. But that's it for this video, guys. If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, comment below, and I'll see you guys in the next one.